Hello, my name is Keith Rucker. So, thought we'd do another little odds and ends video this week. Quite honestly, I haven't had a whole lot of shop time this past week with things going on. Just a lot of distractions, things at work, what have you, and just has really kind of gotten me behind. And what little bit of time I have had to spend out in the shop has been just doing more grunt work type stuff. So at home on the safe, I've been doing a little bit more putting in body filler and sanding, which, you know, there's only so much of that I think you guys can stand on video. I don't want to bore you to death, so I haven't been shooting a lot of that on video. Also, out here at the museum, I've been spending a good bit of time working on pulleys, trying to get all my pulleys set up for the Vance Planer matcher that I've been working on. And I talked with y'all last week about the missing pulley, and there were a couple other ones that I was needing, but I knew we had out here. So I actually came out here a couple of evenings and pulled the pulleys in from out at the pulley pile and worked on getting them off the shafting and stuff like that, which again is just not real exciting camera work. It's just more grunt work. Quite honestly, a lot of these things were covered in grease and were just nasty to deal with, and I didn't want to have to fool with trying to do the camera while I was just covered up in grease at the same time. So sorry about that. But I do want to talk a little bit about the pulleys, because last week I shared with you guys that when we got the planer matcher, it was missing one of its pulleys, and we were in search for that missing pulley, and this was it right here. And again, the diameter on this is just a little over 17.5, and it kept nagging me because I said, that's just an oddball size for a pulley. It wasn't exactly 17.5. It was just a fraction over. And I said, I can't imagine why they would have used that exact size. I mean, the little bit of change in RPMs by having a tiny fraction of an inch isn't going to make a big deal on a machine like this. So I started doing a little bit of searching, a little bit of digging, and I pulled up some of my old catalog pictures that I have of the machine. That these actually came from the Smithsonian Institute, where they have an original catalog. And I started looking at my pictures of the machine before I took it apart, and suddenly the little light bulb went off in my head, ding, 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 as to what was going on. And I almost messed up, because if I had put two exact size pulleys on this machine, I would have been messing up. And here's why. Let me zoom you in on these drawings, and I'll try to explain this so you guys can see what was going on. So again, in case you missed the last video or don't exactly understand how these pulleys are working, the ones I'm working on is this pulley right here. And as you can see, or you really can't see it here, but there's a shaft that goes up underneath the machine. On the other side, there's the exact same setup. And on the main cutter head, the in-feed cutter head, there's a pulley on this side that drives it, and there's also a pulley on the other side. And they both go with a matching pulley over here. These are both the same size. There's one on each side. And the belt goes across the top of the pulley back around, and then it goes around this little idler pulley. And the main purpose of this idler pulley is to put this extra little bit of bend in the pulleys. If this was a straight shot, you wouldn't have as much in contact with the pulleys on either the in-feed, or either on this pulley or this pulley, which then affects the friction. So that little bit of crook really just helps put a lot more tension on these flat belt pulleys. And again, I only had one of these pulleys. They were missing. One of them was missing. And my thought was, well, I need to get them exactly the same because, all this stuff is going to be, this pulley and this pulley are the same, so the belt speed is going to be the same on both of them. And if one of these pulleys was a little bit smaller than the other, you would basically be turning the shaft at different speeds on both sides. And since it's a solid shaft, that was an issue. And I had a couple of guys comment, well, couldn't you just make one slip on the other side? So, why does that shaft need to be turning on both sides? And I thought, well, that's a good idea. I hadn't thought of that. And then I got to looking into things, and suddenly things became a little more clear as to why it was designed this way. So this is, one side of the machine, and this is a picture of the other side of the machine. And what's going on here, again, you got the same setup. It goes around this pulley up over this one and over here. But on this side, we also have the outfeed, the bottom cutter head on the machine. And if you look, the belt on it goes around this pulley right here. And this pulley right here is what is driving this. And the belt on this one actually goes on top of the belt. So there's two belts coming in contact right here. So initially I thought that the whole purpose of this shaft and belt system here was to just put that little crook in there to give you that extra friction on the pulleys, but in reality it's also driving the outfeed cutter head on the machine. So again, these need to be the same diameter to keep the speed of this pulley here going the same on both sides. However, because you got this belt going around here, you actually have a little bit of extra thickness around that. So when you're looking at that matching pulley, you need to add the thickness of the belt. So I actually went and got some belting material like we use. These are just little short pieces that I cut off with some flat belt material, and I measured the thickness of this stuff, and then I doubled that and added it to the diameter of the pulley I have, which happens to be the smaller one. And what you came up with is that the smaller one goes on this side. It's a little over 17.5 inches. The other side needs to be an 18-inch pulley. So mystery solved, and actually I didn't need that matching pulley. I needed an 18-inch pulley. So I needed the 18-inch pulley, and I actually found an 18-inch pulley out here at the museum that was 18 inches in diameter. However, the face on it wasn't really quite as wide as I wanted. It was just a little bit narrower than the other side, and the bore in here was much smaller. It was, I can't remember, this is an inch and 15/16, and I think the other one was like an inch and a quarter. And I was a little bit concerned with that, just simply because I'd have to turn that shaft down. And it wasn't the way the machine was originally designed. So one of my viewers actually came to the rescue on this for me. So, I had mentioned the first time that I had an 18-inch pulley and I could use two 18s. One of my viewers, a gentleman by the name of Randy Weeks, who lives only about 20 minutes from me in Norman Park, Georgia, which is just a little ways down the road, watches my channel, and he sent me a message and said, hey, I found an 18-inch pulley. I'm great. So he gave me his phone number. I gave him a call, and sure enough, he had this pulley right here, and it's 20-inch diameter. 18-inch diameter. Forgive me. The bore size is exactly right, inch and 15/16. Don't have to worry about turning the shaft. Don't worry about making a bushing to go in here. Right on. The face on this one is it's a 6-inch face, which is just a little bit wider than my other one here, which is a 5-inch. But that's not a big deal. Wider I can deal with. Narrower is an issue. So this is the perfect pulley. So Randy says, well, I got the pulley, but really don't want to get rid of it because Randy does some restoration work. He has some old antique engines. He has a bunch of really cool. He's got some cane mills, or making cane syrup. He's got some old grist mills. He's got a bunch of old time stuff like that. And he's like, really, I don't want to get rid of the pulley, because I need these pulleys. He's in the same dilemma I am. He's looking for these old pulleys. He said, but I'll tell you what I do need. He says, I need a 24-inch pulley with a 6-inch face for a golden 3-roller cane mill that he's working on restoring. And the original pulley on that one was busted. All the spokes were knocked out of it, and he was needing a pulley that size. I said, well, let's see what we can do. So I went out to the museum's pulley pile and dug around, and I found a 24-inch pulley. The face on it was just a little bit narrower than 6 inches, but he said that was fine. He could make it work. I wasn't sure about the bore size, but again, that was something that you can deal with. So we ended up swapping pulleys. I swapped him a 24 for this 18. And it worked out great for both of us. So, Randy, thank you so much. This is going to be just sweet on our machine. You bailed me out, and best part of it is it was only 20 minutes away. And so today is Saturday when I'm shooting this, and I actually went out to Randy's house this morning. I had some things going on. I had to drop my daughter off earlier today, or not first thing in the morning, so part of my morning was already shot. And then I said, well, I'll just ride out to Randy's. And that was by no means shot time. I really enjoyed visiting with Randy. Spent probably about an hour out there looking at some of his stuff and what have you, and getting to see some of his things in his collection. And we're going to have something a little bit later in the video to show you guys to help us out with on something that Randy had, but we'll get to that later. But anyway, thank you so much, Randy. Randy did make one comment though. He said when I talked about the pulley pile, he was really wanting to see the pulley pile. And you know, I was communicating with another guy that comments on my site regularly, or comments on email in this case. Get message from him all the time, which is great. And he made a comment about the pulley pile. So I'm going to put in here a couple of pictures of the pulley pile out here at the museum, because I know some of you guys want to see this. And I'll just say that, you know, the museum, we have what we call our boneyard. And it's kind of just a junkyard full of stuff. It's not really artifacts that are put aside for being restored. It's just more stuff that has been brought in over the years for parts. Because we're always, you know, needing stuff like this, line shafting equipment, just stuff that you can't get anymore. Stuff that you used to be able to go to a hardware store and get 100 years ago. Now you can't get it anymore. So the museum has just a boneyard out there. And right now, all of the pulleys are just kind of scattered. They're really not in one big pile. I say our pulley pile, but really there's a bunch of little small piles around the museum site. And I kind of know where they all are, because it seems like I'm always needing pulleys, and I have to go dig through them and try to find. One of my goals coming up hopefully soon is I actually want to spend however much time it takes to go and get all of our pulleys and kind of pull them together. And we're going to build some shelves in one of the storage buildings out here and get them all organized by size, so that when we go looking for these things, we're not having to dig through multiple piles and trying to, you know, digging through the weeds literally in some cases trying to pull these things out. But instead we'll have them all kind of organized. So maybe this fall, when it cools down a little bit more, I'll spend a couple of weekends just working on pulling up pulleys and getting them organized. So anyway, thank you again, Randy, for your help in this project. I'm hoping that the pulley I gave you is going to work for your situation as well, but we're in good shape to go now on finishing up the Vance, I think, with the pulley that we needed. So, got in this week a big Jacobs number 18N chuck. Now this one is capable of gripping it's an 1/8 inch to 3/4 of an inch, and you know, Adam Booth had actually mentioned one of these, saying, hey, you need to find one on his channel, and I do, because there's been a lot of times the chuck I have that I use on the lathe will only go up to 1/2 inch. This one will go up 3/4 of an inch, and there's a lot of times I've been needing to chuck something bigger, particularly chucking reamers and things like that that just won't go in that 1/2 inch chuck. So I'm happy to say I was able to pick this up, and this one came from, here we go, this one came from Chuck Zenter, I think is how you say that, Zentner. Chuck is out in California, and Chuck actually just recently purchased a big lot of chucks, and I think Adam Booth actually had a lead on these. He was had asked Adam if he was needing anything, and Adam kind of passed along the information to me. So this wasn't really a gift. I did purchase it. You know, he charged me $50 for the chuck, which I thought was a very reasonable price for one of these big chucks. And to make it even better, he threw in this little smaller chuck here. So this is a Jacobs number 33. It's a number 1 Morse taper shank on it. It has a 1 to 2 sleeve on top of that. And you know, this one here, this one's been used pretty good, but it appears to be in good, workable, usable shape. So you know, this will definitely see some use somewhere around the shop. Didn't have any keys for either of these, but I can come up with some keys. So this one here came with a number 4 Morse taper arbor on it. However, it's been kind of boogered up. It's been ground on the end. It's not long enough to actually pop out on my lathe. So I need to replace this, and my favorite shopping store, I was able to purchase one off of eBay, a brand new Jacobs, new old stock arbor here with number 4 Morse taper and number 4 Jacobs taper on this end. So now the challenge is to get this one off. And you know, it's kind of ironic because, you know, I did the video a couple of weeks ago showing how to put one of these together, and I got some comments from you guys saying, well, okay, that's great, how do you get one apart? So we're going to go through that. So there's several ways of doing this depending on your situation. So the easiest way to do it, more than really and truly, is to use some wedges to come in here. And Jacobs actually makes wedges that are designed to remove these chucks. In fact, I have a set right here. And if you look at these, they look like little forks, but they're ground on a wedge shape, and you put these together, you slide them around the arbor, and you just tap them together, and it pushes between these two parts, and it separates them. The problem is that I was not able, this was a set that I actually had in a drawer, and I forgot that I had them, and until someone mentioned these to me, and like ding dong, it just went off, and anyway. But unfortunately, these are too small for this particular setup. And looking at the McMaster-Carr catalog, the MSC catalog, the Travers catalog, and even going to the Jacobs site, I don't think they make a set this big enough for this one. So they make, I think, a number 2 and a number 3, and then they go to this number 6, and the number 6 actually won't fit on this number 4. So unless I'm missing something on the numbers and what they correspond to, I don't think they have a set that fits it. So, plan B, I guess. So I've actually had pretty good luck doing this kind of stuff before, removing this. So we got these two tapers. They're kind of jammed together. But they're not. I mean, they're stuck together pretty good, but they're not really as tight together as you might think they are. So I've had real good luck just heating up the outer shell of this. Again, not getting it red hot, but just enough to make it swell up just a little bit. When you apply heat to it, it causes it to expand. And if I can make this outside ring expand just a thousandth or two, a lot of times the chuck will just fall off. And another, let's see. And another thing I thought of, and I don't know if this is going to work, I've got these little machinist wedges, and I was hoping I might be able to get up underneath the corner, but I don't think that's going to work. So we're going to take the propane torch, and we're going to heat this outside shell up, and I may take a little soft blow hammer or something and just tap on it a time or two and see if it'll come apart. If that doesn't work, then I may end up making a set of wedges like this that actually fit this chuck. But we're going to try the heat trick first. So let me grab my propane torch, and we'll see how lucky I am. Alright guys, I don't have any welding gloves here, but I got some leather gloves. I'm not planning on getting this super hot. I don't want to change the color of the steel or anything like that. I'm just trying to warm it up a couple of 100 degrees, or maybe just 150 degrees or so. And a lot of times that's enough to get something like this unstick. So I'm just going to take my propane torch, and we're going to try to apply fairly even heat going around the edge of this thing. I don't want to put it concentrated in one place, and I'm also trying to concentrate the heat on the outside ring. I really want it to swell up at a faster rate than the arbor, so I want to heat the outside up without heating the arbor up. That heat's going to conduct pretty quickly, so I don't have a lot of working time to do this. But let's just see what happens here. I'm going to pick it up now. Alright, apply a little more heat. Okay, that's hot, but not so hot I can't touch it. I can't hold my hand on it very long, but I can put my hand on it. And yeah, the arbor's warm, but it's not as hot as the outside. So that, in this case, guys, I'm not going to push it any farther. I think I'm just going to make a set of wedges and see if we can drive them apart using those. So that'll be a little project once I get back into the shop at the museum where I have my milling machine, and we'll go through making a set of wedges. Let's do some viewer appreciation mail. So I got a box in the mail this week. I actually got several things in the mail this week, but This is one that was sent to me by Butch Vickers. Butch is over in Corpus Christi, Texas, one of my viewers on my channel. And Butch sent me a message, told me that he had bought a little hobby lathe. I don't know exactly when, but at some time. And when he purchased it, it came with a little mechanic's toolbox full of tools and stuff for the lathe. But in that toolbox, there were a bunch of other things that were just totally unrelated to the lathe. Anyway, he thought that I might enjoy having some of these, and he wanted to send them to me because he really didn't have a need for these tools. And being the tool junkie that I am, I thought that was just absolutely wonderful. So anyway, Butch sent these to me, came in the mail this week, and I'll share with you guys what all he sent. So let me zoom you in so you can see these a little better. All right, so what prompted this, I think, was in one of my videos I had mentioned that I do some wood turning. And when Butch got these tools, he said he had some wood turning chisels that came in there, and he doesn't do any wood turning, and asked me if I thought I might be able to use them. And I told him, I said, yeah, you know, I would love to have them. You know, I've got quite a few chisels. I told him that if for some reason, you know, the chisels were not something that I could use because I already had them, that I'd pass them along to somebody else. I participate in a little wood turning club here in town. We always have new wood turners in. I said, we'll find a good home for them. So anyway, I was expecting to get some wood turning chisels. And when I got into the box, what I got were these chisels here. And Butch, these are not wood turning chisels. These are actually wood carving chisels for doing hand carving of wood. And it's actually a very nice set. These are made in Germany. Let's see, they've got a name on them. Most of them anyway are made by the same company. It's Sculpture Associates out of Germany is what they say. And there are several, let's see, these three right here are all gouges. They have just a slight curve on there. This one here is more of a paring chisel. It's sharpened on both sides to a point. And this is a little V'ing tool for like cutting veins out in a carving. And this is kind of a knife that you would use to get down into a corner. So these are actually very nice. I was very surprised when I saw these. You know, I have to say that I have never really done a lot of wood carving. Although I do have a few wood carving tools, not very many at all, because I've actually used some of these in my wooden pattern making, needing some special chisels. So I've actually ordered a couple of these different wood carving chisels of specific sizes when I needed one for a specific job. So anyway, these are going to go in my pattern maker's drawer of tools over here, where I have all my I got a bunch of different chisels for doing pattern making work, and I'm going to add these to those collections. Even though there's more specific for wood carving, these will actually come in very handy for doing wooden pattern making for me. So anyway, I'm very excited. This was not what I was expecting, and it was a very pleasant surprise to find something, because quite honestly, I've got a pretty good collection of wood turning tools. I don't have everything by any means. But you know, you know, when he told me he had some wood turning tools, quite honestly, I thought, well, you know, it's probably not something I can use. Although I could find a good home for them, that's what I told him. But instead, these are going to remain mine, and they will get put to use. Again, not so much for wood carving, unless I decide to take that up as a hobby. Who knows? But it'll get used in my pattern making instead. So anyway, there was some other stuff that he sent along as well, and I really wasn't expecting a lot of this stuff. He told me there were a few other things in the box that he was going to send. So, you know, start off with, this is just a pair of calipers. It says Companion on it, made in USA. You know, these are more like what you would use in a auto parts store or something for just making quick measurements. It just has the veneer measurements on here. It really just has a scale on here that is measured down to the 32nd of an inch. Although there is a little veneer scale up here at the top, and that's for probably measuring a unit smaller than a 32nd, but I don't know, it doesn't say on here anywhere what that veneer scale corresponds with, but it's both inside and outside. It's actually a pretty nice pair of these, very well built for being a, you know, not having the precision measuring to 1/1000th of an inch. A lot of these that you see now are made out of plastic. A lot of woodworkers have similar types of these because they're not interested in measuring to 1/1000th of an inch or finer. But this is a very nice set indeed. So anyway, I'll put this probably with my woodworking tools as well. I use my machinist tools to measure in woodworking all the time, just because I'm used to doing that and I have them, so why not use them? But really and truly, measuring to 1/32 of an inch in woodworking is usually good enough. So anyway, we'll use that in my woodworking. Let's see. There's a little Stanley chisel. Looks like about a 1/2 inch wide. You know, plastic handle. This looks like probably one from the late 50s, early 60s, which means that it has real good steel in there. You know, before that, the older ones, all the handles were made out of wood. This is a later one that's made out of plastic, but this is an old one. This is, you know, it may even be from the early 70s, but this, you can tell it's a very high quality one. And if you look, the hammer the top of it has a little bit of marks from being beat on, but not many. And the face of it here is, I mean, you can tell it's been sharpened a few times, but it looks to me like it was actually sharpened by, yeah, even the back's been sharpened here on a hone. It looks like it's been honed. A lot of these you just see them where they just run them over a grinder, and the grind is pretty much shot. This one here, whoever had this one, knew how to grind a chisel. It needs to be reground. There are a few nicks in it, but it's been well cared for, is my point. So that's something else that will get used. You know, I've got a nice set of Stanley wooden handled chisels that I do for, I guess, my fine woodworking stuff, but I keep some of these in a drawer with the plastic handles, and if I'm doing a little bit rougher work, or I'm worried that I might mess up my old antique pair of chisels, sometimes I'll grab one of these, and this is a good handy size to have, and again, it's a tool that will get used. Here's another interesting item, Blackhawk, part number PT1266, made in USA. And what these are is a set of pliers for separating a lock snap ring. So this is you know, when you're disassembling something that has snap rings on there, you can get in there, get this between there, and push them apart and slide that snap ring off of whatever. So you know, working on stuff out of the museum or whatever, we always are dealing with bearings. A lot of times they're Babbitt bearings, not modern bearings, but anyway, this is a tool that I'm sure that I'll find a use for. I've got some snap ring pliers that have the pins in them, but I don't have any that you can get in there and spread apart like this. So again, this is a tool I don't have, and quite honestly, this is a tool that I've needed many times over the years, and I'm sure I'll have a need for them again. Continuing on, so he sent me a couple of Morse taper adapters here. So this one here is a number 1 to number 2, I believe, or is that 2 to 3? Yeah, I think that's a 2 to 3 is what this is, and that's what this one is too. It's a 2 to 3, except this one here has extended out. So you know, I've got some of these like this. It's always handy to have some extras, because now that I got all those taper shank drills, it seems like I'm always needing an adapter to get to the right size. But this one is unusual. I don't have any that are extended like this, and a lot of times when you need to just have a little bit of extra reach to get down inside of a hole or something, I can see where this one here will come in handy. So anyway, both of these will be put in the box out of my machinist box and get used. And it goes on. So here's a little wrench of some kind. I have no idea what that went to, but anyway, we'll throw it in the drawer of wrenches. It'll get used. This was kind of nice. So got a couple of big hex Allen keys, and these are both pretty large size ones that, again, I think I don't have any this big. I was looking for my dial calipers and I can't find them, but then I remembered, hey, I've got these calipers. I'll just use them. So that looks like for 5/30 seconds on that one, and this one. Did I measure that right? No. I'm sorry. All right. Took me a second here. I'm not used to the scale on here. Anyway, I think this one is what did I say? 22:30 seconds, and this one here is 17:30 seconds. I think is what these measure, if I'm reading my scale right on here. So anyway, those I got a drawer full of hex keys. You know, you seem like you get them all the time, and I just throw them all in a drawer. So these will go in my drawer full of hex keys. And again, I don't have any of this style of these larger sizes, so that's going to be nice. And finally, the last item that was in there is this. And you know, most of you guys probably recognize this. This is for dressing a grinder wheel. So these are just hardened disc in here, and you can just kind of hold this up to your grinder wheel and go back and forth, and it will dress it. It says Sears on the top here. This is an old one. The paint on it is actually pretty darn good, but it's got a good solid cast iron handle on it. Very well made. You know, I was actually using the one out at the museum that's a modern one, and it doesn't have near the weight and heft as this one. So this is nice. And I've got a little diamond tool to dress my wheels here at the house, but I don't have one of these, so this will go over by the grinder and it'll be used. So again, thank you very much. These are all some nice tools that will find good use here in my shop. All right, another box here came in the mail this week. This one is from Ken Bartlett out of California, and Ken had sent me a little note about a week or so ago, and wanted to send me a little item, and I thought this was great. So Ken told me that he used to do a lot of bullet casting, and he recycled a bunch of aluminum cans or whatever, and one day he was at the recycling center, and a guy there that did stuff had some what he thought was lead bars that he wanted to give Ken for just because he knew he cast bullet. Well, Ken got them, and he said, I don't think that's lead. And anyway, he took these away, and what these are some ingots of Babbitt, and I don't think he knew what Babbitt was at the time. Most people don't know what Babbitt is, but of course Babbitt is a bearing material that was used in a lot of these old machines that we restore out at the museum. So this is American Smelting and Refining Company. I can't quite read that. Something Metals Division, Federated Metals Division, and this is a Quad X Nickel Babbitt. So I've actually seen some of this before. This is good stuff. This is really high quality Babbitt. You can still find the information on it, know what the analysis is, and this is good Babbitt for all kinds of different uses. And I told Ken that his timing was impeccable because we've got several jobs at the museum that we're going to be pouring Babbitt for in the next, as I get to it. So on the Vance Planer matcher, we've still got, let's see, 5 more bearings to pour, I think. And on the sawmill, I've actually got to do a job on the steam-powered sawmill at the museum. There's a clutch mechanism on there that drives the carriage, and it's needing to be rebuilt. It's got some issues. It works right now, but it's got some issues, and that's going to be a priority job probably this coming week and next weekend. As I get some time to work on there, we're going to try to jump on that and get that back up and going for them, so the sawmill's down as short of a time as possible. But there's going to be some Babbitt that needs to be poured in there as well. So anyway, thank you very much. I'm going to put this in my stash of Babbitt. This is another thing, guys. I pick it up anytime I can find it because this stuff is getting harder and harder to find. You can still buy new Babbitt, but it's expensive. And anytime I can find some good Babbitt, particularly of known composition, I really like to get it, and it'll get used. So thank you, Ken. And another box here just came in today, as a matter of fact. We've been going back and forth. This is from Charles Marlin out in Las Vegas, Nevada. And Charles has been helping me with some pattern making using a 3D printer. I showed you some patterns the other day for the locomotive drain cocks that we put together this little pattern. I haven't had a chance to cast it yet. We're going to be doing that soon. And actually I've been holding off casting these because I've been waiting to get these patterns and I want to do them all at the same time. So as you know, we've been working on the safe restoration now for a while. And one of the issues that I've got to come up with is that it was missing the dial. It's missing a little item that looks just like this. This is a actual mock-up of the actual dial off the safe that was printed on the 3D printer. So let me zoom you guys in so you can see this. It's pretty cool. So I sent Charles some pictures and some dimensions, and we came up. This is what the dial is supposed to look like. And let's see. Here's what's left of my original one. And if you look here, the profile on there of the two knobs is pretty much identical. Of course, it's got a hole here where that little steel piece would go through it. And you can see that the whole piece back here was busted off of it. And this is what I need to make. And I'm going to have to turn one. I'm going to turn one on the lathe and basically recreate this part. And originally my plan was I was going to make this or turn it out of a piece of solid brass. But then I started pricing brass in the diameter that I need. This is the finished 3 inches, so really I need something a little over 3 inches to be able to clean that up and get it just right. And I mean, just a foot of 4-inch brass was really, really expensive. So I said, you know what? I'll just cast a blank and turn it out of the blank. I can do that much cheaper. So we needed a set of patterns to turn this out of. And anyway, Charles put together with my kind of designing it, figure out what we wanted. We came up with this right here to actually cast. It's a split pattern again, and I've got to put some pins in here, but we'll actually cast a piece that looks like this right here. We put these stems on here on each side so that I could grip it in the lathe on both sides and clean it up and turn it around. But we'll start by gripping on this side. We'll clean up the back side, leave enough for me to grip, and then we'll flip it around this way, running true to that side that I just machined, and I'll machine out the profile. And to do this little back cut in here, it's actually just a 1/2-inch radius cutter that's going to come in here at a 45-degree angle. It'll come right in here, and that's going to create that little cavity in there, which looks like the way they made the original ones. Eventually this front piece will get just machined off after I get through holding on it, and then the back side will get turned down to just a little knob there that will actually be tapped for this rod right here. So anyway, that's my plan, is that we're going to cast this, and Charles was kind enough to draw this up in SolidWorks. He did some great renderings of it as well to show me what it would all look like. Additionally, we needed the little piece that this dial goes into. There's another plate behind it, the back plate that you read it on. And again, we created a pattern right here that will be machined out of. And basically, again, we've got some pieces here to hold it in the lathe to make it a little bit easier. But all this metal in the middle will actually be machined out, and this dial will fit down inside of this very nicely. And this is what will have the line on it that you read the dial as you're turning. So anyway, these are going to be some casting jobs coming up pretty soon. I've been waiting to fire the foundry up until I get these parts. So now, just as soon as I can carve some time out of my schedule, maybe one evening this week if things will go well, and we'll do a little brass casting, and maybe go ahead and pour a set of the locomotive drain cocks as well. And he sent me another pattern in here, and I'm not going to show it to you. It's going to be a surprise. Actually, I got a couple of surprises that I'm going to show you guys later on. But that wasn't all he sent me. In addition to the patterns, he also sent me a couple of books. that he picked up somewhere along the way. So one of them here is industrial control circuits. So I hadn't even looked in this yet, but this has got all, okay, it's all electrical diagrams and stuff. You know, I could have used this the other day when we were wiring up that motor starter, and I was all confused at first about how to do it. Thank goodness we had the internet on our cell phones. We were able to look it up. Anyway, got that one, and then also Charles sent me a copy of Shop Work on the Farm, second edition by Mac Jones. I was looking to see if there's a copyright date. Should be one. Here we go, 1955. So I haven't really had a chance to look at this one yet either, but all kinds of shop-related stuff in here. There was a Delta Unisaw I just went past. So anyway, thank you, Charles. You know I love books, so those will go into my library. So at the beginning of the video today, I was sharing with you guys about this morning taking a few minutes and riding out to Norman Park, Georgia, and about 20-minute ride from where I live, roughly, and met up with one of my viewers, Randy Weeks, who's been watching my channel now for a while. And anyway, he's been commenting some on my channel, and we've been going back and forth on some comments and emails. And anyway, when I was looking for the pulley, he had one, as I've already told you. Anyway, I went out there to swap with him on the pulleys this morning, and had a really nice visit out at Randy's place, and really enjoyed looking around at some of the cool things that he's got collected. Again, some old hit and miss engines, some cane mills, some grist mills, just all kinds of just cool stuff. And he took me into a little building where he has, I guess, what you call some of his collectibles, some of the tools that he's collected. Got some really, really nice hand tools and what have you. But he showed me an item, and we discussed an item, and to be honest with you, we're not neither one of us are 100% sure what this item is. Both of us kind of had the same idea of what it probably is, and I'm pretty confident about what it probably is. But Randy said, you know, this will make a good what's it. Why don't you take it with you, show it on the channel, and see if we can get anybody out there that can positively identify this tool. And again, I will not be a bit surprised if some of you guys can. But before I show it to you, I'm going to give you guys the same ground rules that we had on one of the last what's it's that I did. I don't want you just to look at it and tell me what it is. You can if you want to guess, or even if you are almost positive you know what it is. You can tell. That's fine. But what I'm looking for is, again, documentation for this particular item. I want to see some type a book that shows it, a catalog picture, you know, something along the lines of that. Ideally, I'd love to be able to figure out who the manufacturer is and approximately when it was made. But at the very least, I'd like to find someone that can show it, an example of it, some documentation of it, and how this tool was used, because I think we got some technical questions on how it might have actually been used. So let me pull this out. It's a big tool, guys. So I'm holding it here in my hand, and we'll zoom in here in just a moment to let you look at it. So this is wood through here. It's actually this end up. This is wood through here. You got some brass pieces on the end. There's a little adjustable scale that goes up on this end, and there is a level bubble built into the top here. So again, you got some gauges on here, or at least I'm calling these gauges, and you got this rule and a level. So let's zoom in a little bit closer and show you some of the fine details on this, okay? All right, so we'll start on this end, and I'm zoomed out a little bit. It's just such a large piece. I want you to get an idea of the scale. So again, there are two little brass pieces here. You can tell that actually, if you measure between them, this one measures to the inside and this one measures to the outside. And I'll give you guys a hint. I'm almost positive of what this is, but I'm not 100% sure. But this is a gauge to measure with between these 2 points, and this is a fixed measurement between here, and I'll give you that measurement in a minute because that'll be a real clue as to what it goes to for you guys that recognize that number. But again, you got a little scale here that you can adjust up and down, and the scale is only on this one side. So in the middle, there is a bubble level in here, and it's got a brass plate over it that says Stanley. I am not convinced that this is actually made by Stanley, the entire part. And the reason I say that is I've got a really good book on Stanley collectibles, and I couldn't find this in there. And I also know, well, I think one of two things happened. Number one, it very well could have been that whoever made this bought the bubble attachment from Stanley instead of manufacturing that themselves and put it in here, which they made these available. Or number two, which I also think is very likely, is that this cover that has a Stanley name may not be original. This may have been added on later. The bubble in here looks to be much older than the brass plate that's on top of it. So I really, and two, the logo on here, I'm not a real big Stanley expert, but it just looks a little bit too modern for this piece. I may be wrong, but anyway, I'm not convinced that this is original to this part, but anyway, it says Stanley on it. There was at one time right here, there's 4 pins, and you can actually see where the wood is stained. There was a plaque here, probably a brass plaque, I'm guessing, that had information on it. Unfortunately, that's long gone. So let's go to the other end. So you get down on this end, and again you have the gauge pins sticking out, top and bottom, inside and outside measurement. This one up here is just like this. The bottom one, though, is interesting because it almost looks like there's 2 different gauge blocks here. And then on both sides of that, you've got a scale going 2 inches in this direction and 1 inch in this direction. Not exactly sure about that. So let's get the tape measure out, and I'll give you the measurement on this. And again, I think that's going to give it away to some of you guys. We measure inside to inside. It's 56 1/2 inches. We measure from outside to outside, and again, it's 56 1/2 inches. So for those of you guys, some of you guys again will recognize that number, and that's a very common number that would be measured, which is why I'm pretty sure this is what this is, and I'm not going to give that away, so I'll let you guys guess. So there you go, guys. That's going to be this week's What's It? And again, feel free to guess if you just want to guess what it is. And I'll, if you tell me what you think it is, I'll let you know if you're thinking the same thing I am. But again, what I'm really after on this, guys, is some documentation, as showing this in a catalog, in a book, or something that shows what it is and how it would have been used. Because that's really what I'm interested in. And again, if you can even identify the maker on this somehow. The only marks other than the Stanley name on there is down on this end right here. It says G-48 right down here by the scale. Another little interesting thing on this is you got this little piece here, but when you flip it over, there's a notch in the back right here of this particular one. And I'm not exactly sure, again, that had a reason. They didn't just put that in there for decorative purposes. There was a reason for that notch. So I'm really looking for some documentation on what this is and how it might have been used. And guys, I'm going to offer a little prize. I ended up doing this. It wasn't something planned, but when Paul Compton got the last one and showed me the catalog pictures of that little milling attachment, I said, I'm going to send you a little prize in the mail. And it's not anything big, but it's just a little something that I'll send out to you guys, or to the first person that can provide documentation for what this is. And that can be through internet links. You can send me an email with a scan or a picture. Anything like that will be fine. But I'm looking for documentation on this, guys. All right, so that wraps up this second odds and end video. I hope you enjoyed it again. Again, this week just didn't really have a lot of time to get in and do be really working on a project. I just had a lot of little things going. Been working on the safe. It's mostly been putting on body filler and sanding, so not a lot to show there, but we're making progress. And I really appreciate all of your guys' inputs on doing the body work finish, because I've actually kind of switched doing some things a little bit differently on that, and it's going really a lot better now. So thank you so much for your input, and we'll give you an update on that as we get a little bit farther along. Again, there's just not a lot to really show, and I haven't been really filming me standing there with sandpaper sanding on that, so it's just kind of boring. So anyway, again, thank you for watching. Thank you to all my many subscribers out there. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button, and please leave me some comments. I always look forward to hearing from you guys and getting some feedback from you. Thanks again.